Imagine a naval blockade, ships lining the coast, a tense standoff. What brings an end to such a complex military operation? What signals that it is time for the ships to withdraw and commerce to resume? A lawful blockade typically terminates when the underlying armed conflict ends, when the blockading party formally lifts it, or when the blockade ceases to be effective or proportionate according to international humanitarian law. The core reason behind these triggers lies in the very nature and legal basis of blockades. A blockade is an act of war, justified only by military necessity and subject to strict rules of distinction and proportionality. When the military necessity no longer exists, such as after a peace treaty or an armistice, the blockade must end. Furthermore, for a blockade to remain as lawful, it must be continuously effective. This means the blockading force must maintain a real danger to vessels attempting to breach it. If ships can routinely pass through without significant risk, the blockade loses its legal standing. Another crucial factor is proportionality. A blockade cannot cause excessive harm to the civilian population, for example, by preventing essential humanitarian relief from reaching them. If the civilian suffering outweighs the military advantage gained, the blockade's lawfulness is challenged, potentially leading to its termination or modification. This is why international humanitarian law emphasizes that blockades must not have starvation as their object or method. Practically, termination can happen in several ways. The most straightforward is a formal declaration by the blockading state, communicating its decision to neutral states and the international community. Sometimes, termination is a de facto reality when the blockading force withdraws its ships or reduces its presence to a point where effectiveness is lost. International pressure from neutral states or humanitarian organizations, citing violations of proportionality or humanitarian concerns, can also play a significant role in compelling a blockading power to lift or adjust its operations. Remember, the rules requiring proper notification of both the imposition and the lifting of a blockade. An interesting detail here is the concept of a paper blockade, which refers to a blockade declared but not effectively maintained. Such a blockade is universally considered unlawful. The principle of continuous effectiveness is not just a suggestion, it is a fundamental requirement to prevent distant blockades that would simply disrupt commerce without genuinely contributing to a military objective. This also ties into the notification requirement, which ensures that neutral shipping is aware of the blockade's existence and its boundaries, allowing them to avoid violating it unintentionally. Understanding these triggers is essential because it underscores the temporary and conditional nature of blockades under international humanitarian law. It highlights the continuous responsibility of the blockading power to assess not only the military utility but also the humanitarian impact, ensuring that such operations remain within the strict bounds of legality and humanity throughout their duration. This framework helps uphold predictability and minimizes unnecessary suffering in times of armed conflict.